So the new Spider Tier 5 Slayer boss has been on the alpha for a few days now, and with it, they released this new upgrade to the Tarantula armor. The set bonus was pretty hard buffed. Looking at it, you'd think it would be an additive damage bonus, but it's actually multiplicative. And as you guys would probably know if you watched any of my previous videos, I like that. Basically, how this thing works is for every piece you have equipped, the third hit of damage will deal an additional 50% multiplicative damage, but it's additive for every piece you increase with, like, itself. So one piece will be a 1.5x damage buff, 2 is 2x, 3 is 2.5x, and 4 is 3x. The two biggest perks of this armor set are, one, its price, being that it basically costs a little over a stack of Tarantula Silk per piece, which is like 13 mil or something like that on the Bazaar per piece. And compared to Infernal Crimson, it's pretty cheap, so yeah. The other nice thing about this is how easy it is to set up. You can swap to the set anytime and just instantly get the 3x damage on the third hit. While I was testing this, I also remembered that the Iron Golem pet has a really similar perk and gives you 5x damage every 5th hit instead of 3. So theoretically, if you start with a random armor set on maybe a Reaper so you can buff yourself, then equip the Golem pet, punch something twice, then equip the Primordial Armor, then punch twice again, and then lastly hit the mob with your sword, you can actually get like a 15x damage hit, so yeah. Now obviously you won't be using this kind of thing in every scenario. It's more like if you need huge burst for like one hit or something, like maybe like base skipping a boss. But even if you're not doing this to achieve huge big damage numbers, you can kind of just use it for every third hit, and it's like, if you think about it, like if you're hitting 3 times and on the third hit you get 3x damage buff, it's kind of like hitting 5 times in 3 hits, so it's like a 66% damage increase, you know? I also want to note with the thing I just did a second ago with the Golem pet, might go incredibly hard with some Soul Eater like cheeses that like you normally would do on like a Slayer phase skip. But unfortunately, I don't have any Soul Eater books on my Iron Man on the alpha, so I can't really like make any and try that out. So if you guys try it out, let me know in the comments how good it is, because yeah, genuinely curious. Now there's 3 ways I want to mainly test this out for melee specifically. One is the 4-piece Primordial, the other is normal full Infernal Crimson, the last is 2-piece Primordial including the helmet for its 150 crit damage, and 2 pieces Infernal Crimson. The reason for this is you'll still get the same damage and ferocity buff with only 2 pieces of Infernal Crimson, but you only get a third of the swipe damage, and the stacks run out quicker, but that second part doesn't really matter much, so yeah, basically what I'm going to be doing is a 10-second DPS test of all 3 of the previous sets I just mentioned, and manually count the total damage in those windows, which is kind of annoying to do, but unfortunately there is no mod for checking DPS that I know of, so yeah, here I am. I also got to swap my talismans to mage, otherwise I'm going to end up one-shotting the 10 mil HP dummy, so yeah, that's why my damage numbers are going to be like really low, but it's kind of just what I gotta do. The overall stats shouldn't really matter too much. It might technically skew the damage a little bit over towards Crimson, because Primordial Armor's main weakness is that it has a lot less stats than Crimson, so having higher total stats would theoretically like bridge that gap a little bit in favor of Primordial Armor, if that makes sense. But yeah, anyways, so let's get started, and we'll start with the 4-piece Primordial test. Alright, so this is how I tabled all these numbers. I separated them into all their damage types just so we can like better understand how each setup affects each type of damage. The total damage for the 10-second window was a bit over 25 mil for this one. But yeah, let's test out the next one, which is going to be 2 pieces Primordial with 2 pieces Infernal Crimson. This was honestly a lot closer than I thought it would be, a bit over 25.3 mil, and I think there was a little bit of lag at the end of the test now that I'm looking at it, which probably caused a little bit, like maybe like a tick or 2, or maybe a little bit more than that of Venomous to not do it, but I mean it's still higher anyway, so I think it proves the point. One interesting thing to note is the two-piece test had like around 2 million damage more in just like the crit damage part, but yeah, had less venomous damage. So I think like the damage buff, since like venomous is based on your damage, it like increases your venomous damage by quite a bit by having these like crazy proc damages. Alright, and now for the final test, let's look at 4-piece Crimson. So yeah, looking at these numbers, you can see the overall crit melees on average are higher, at least like consistently, but the overall damage isn't as high as anything. The only thing that's higher here is actually the Crimson Swipe damage, since having 4 pieces like triples the Crimson Swipe, I guess. But yeah, since you're not getting those damage procs, looks like the overall winner here is the 2 pieces, I think. It's just like the optimal way for DPS now. I also didn't get any gemstones for my Primordial Armor, so I mean, like, I was just kind of too lazy, but it's like, it was only like, I don't know how much a perfect gemstone gives, but it's not like game-changing or anything. Some final interesting things I want to mention about this set is one, is like what actually counts as a hit. Basically, from what I've gathered, any damage tick can count as a hit, since after every hit you can proc like Fire Aspect and Venomous and all that stuff. If you wait until those proc after hitting, like assuming you procced your 3x damage, since it like hits twice, then like the third hit, which would be the next hit afterwards, would be the 3x damage. So if you just time it correctly until like you wait until those 2 damage ticks proc and then you hit again, you'll just always get the 3x on your main hit, which is kind of funny to look at. It's not really optimal, it's better to just like keep spamming, but kind of interesting. You unfortunately can't do this with the 2 pieces of each though, because you'd be getting Crimson Swipe and then it would mess it up, but if you're doing the 4 pieces, it's kind of cool. Another thing is you can actually also dungeonize this Primordial Armor, which makes it potentially pretty good for dungeons, but I'm not well versed in dungeons enough yet to know if it'd be worth building it for it, but I'm sure some dungeon freaks will test it out. Yeah, probably the last thing I'll mention is that it also does have a little bit less EHP than Crimson, so if you struggle to survive some stuff in Crimson, wearing this armor set will definitely not help you there, but you can still do like Blaze Slayer if you have pretty decent stats with it. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. If you found it informative, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!